Hi guys, welcome back. I'm so excited to be here for lesson 4 of the DIY stock images and graphics course. I am so excited you guys have made it this far, and today we are going to go over some really simple ways to turn the images that you have edited in Photoshop into graphics. So we're going to be using Adobe Illustrator. Hopefully you guys were all able to download it yesterday. But I know that you can do this in Canva as well, which is free online, and they've got some great tutorials for you to go through, and it's super simple. And maybe someday I'll do a tutorial for that too, but I've never actually used it. I am an Adobe girl all the way. I had to use it in school, so that's what I know. That's what I use. So today we're basically going to take the images that you guys created yesterday, so you photographed them, we edited them in Photoshop. Today we're going to take them in Illustrator. We're going to just resize them a little bit, and we are going to put some overlays of color, and we're going to add some text, and then we're going to save those so that you can put them on your websites. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen again so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right. Share. All right, there's Google. So many windows, guys. All right, so this is Illustrator, and it looks a little bit like Photoshop. You've got the file and everything on the top. You've got a toolbar on the side. Some of these look similar, but they work a little bit differently. And then you've got some more panels over here. This is where your layers panel is, so we'll need to do that. Look at that, and I'll show you how to go through all of that. So we're going to just do the same thing as last time and open up our file. And this time we're going to open up our edited image. So mine are right here. And I am actually going to open up, let's see, let's start with this one. I'm going to open up the JPEG version. You can also open up the TIFF version, but it's going to import all of the different layers that you have. All right, so this is huge. I'm going to go to File. Well, actually, I'm going to just Control and hit the minus sign, and that's going to zoom out. This is a really big image. So the first thing I want to do, if you can see this rectangle right here, that's sort of the canvas that we're working on, and we want that to be the image size that we're looking for. To resize it, you just go over to this box right here, and you can move the arrows up and down to resize, or if you know exactly the size you're looking for, you can hit Enter, and it'll bring it up. And I'm going to make this at 800 by 800, which is what I use for the graphics on my blog. If you look and see any of the titles, this is the size that they are. So that's what we're going to be using. If you just click on this black arrow right here, then I'm going to shrink this down to fit on here however I want it to. And the nice thing about doing it this way is I don't have to crop my image. You can totally do that. You can do it in Photoshop. But here I am just going to fit what I want to be able to see on this artboard. And then when I go to save it, everything that's not on the artboard won't show up in the image, but it'll still be in the file. And the reason I do this is so that if I make a background with this image right now and I want to change it later, I don't have to go in and open a new file. I just move it over. And I can now make a background with this image. I can put one in the middle, so I can get a lot of use out of this. I can, go back to the bigger size or whatever I need to do, and it's going to give me a lot of use out of one image. So for right now, I'm going to leave it in the middle, because if you guys read through the lesson on sort of setting up your photos, we had a tip about leaving the middle open, and that's because that's generally where your text is going to go. So if you look on the side panel, this double piece of paper is the layers. If you click that, it's going to open. You can see this layer 1 is the image. You can turn it off, it disappears, turn it on, it's there. And what I like to do is put everything on a separate layer so that it's really easy to edit. So I can go in Just click this to create a new layer. I also like to lock the layers underneath so that I can't accidentally move this around. So if this lock is on, you just click the button. I can't select this and I can't move it around when I'm trying to do something else and then make everything all wonky. So as long as I'm on layer 2, which is unlocked, I can work. Now if you go back over here in your tools panel, you'll see this rectangle, and if it's got this little mark in the corner, that means if you hold down, it'll bring up different shapes. So let's start with a rectangle. Now I can create a rectangle. I just drag it out, and these are the colors right here. So if I want to change this color, either I can do it over here by clicking on this and filling in a hex code. So mine for my blog is 59C4C0. That's the teal color that I use. And yes, I have it memorized. Or I can do it up here. If you're not seeing swatches up here, this drives me crazy. I'm not sure why this happens, but if you're not seeing them, you can go to these books over here. It's called the library. And what you're going to want to do is just pull up the default swatches, and you can pull up the, it's going to load them. You can pull up the web swatches. It'll put them over here. Which still, you also have, you know, basic RGB swatches. And it's going to pop these all up in separate windows, it looks like, or in tabs here, okay. Or you can see them over here. This is just a color picker. This is a color guide, so they've got a bunch of different things. And then you can do some extras. But for now, this will work. So I've got this rectangle. I can resize it. I can move it around. I can do whatever I want. If there is a specific size you want for your rectangle, so since my image is 800 by 800 pixels, if I wanted this to be like a long rectangle in the middle or a square in the middle, I can just click once on the screen. It'll bring this up, and I can tell it the size I want it to be. So if I said I want it to be 400 by 400, I can bring that up. It'll bring it over. And if you watch this little green line, you can see what it can align with. So there, it's aligned in the very center of my image. I can align it at the top. I can align it in the bottom corner, and it'll sort of bring up different intersection points for you to use. So now I've got a background image. I've got this square, but I can't see anything through the square, so it looks a little weird. If I click on it, on this top bar, you can see that there's a thing called opacity. So I can turn this down, and this is what I like to do, is turn down the opacity. Put it at like 50% maybe. That way you still get the color, but you can also sort of see the image in the background. And that'll be fine. Okay, so I'm actually going to make this a little bit taller, a little bit wider so that we can fit a big blog post title in there. Center it. Oh, there we go. It's centered. So that's how you make your image opaque. Say I still wanted to change the color. I could make it pink. I could make it orange. I actually do mine in white. If you ever see mine, they're just in white like this. And if you want to add an outline, you can also do that. You'll bring up the swatches again. You can also switch over here. So if you just want to use the same swatch menu, you click, this box is full, that means fill. If you switch over to this one, that's called stroke, that's your outline. And if there's this red line through it, that means there's nothing there. So I could go through and pick yellow, and then what I'll have to do is over here, I'll have to change the stroke. And I actually need to be clicked on the box to do that. So that's yellow now. I can increase this. And now I have a yellow outline around my box, which I don't really want, so I'm going to go back and change this so that it's blank. But that is definitely an option for you guys. You know, if you have a gray box but you want a black outline, totally doable, and you can change the width of your stroke and play around with that to make it look nice. Now I'm going to go in and make another layer, and this is going to have the text. So I'll lock that box. And to make text, I'll come to this T. It's a type tool. If you want to get really fancy, you can play with these. You can type on a path, which will, if you have a shape drawn, it'll type on that. But I like to just do it really, really simple. Make it easy. Drag out a box, and you're just going to type in here. So we're going to do DIY stock photos and graphics that you can make for under $30. All right, so that's the course you guys. Oh, that's the course you guys signed up for. So that's what we're going to make this for. All right, so this is really small. It's 12 points. This is easy. You change it just the way you would in anything else. Basically, you go in here, you change the font size, you can change the font type. So what I use is, I usually use Arial. Sorry, guys. All right, so I use Arial, and then I might make this one something fancy. And the nice thing about Creative Cloud is that you can see an example of the script over here. And if you go to Typekit, there are some extra ones you can download, which is really awesome. All right, now you don't want to use just any fonts. You want to use your fonts from your website, but mine, unfortunately, are not preloaded in here just because they're not available. And then what I'll do is you can resize this box. So I make it almost as big as the opaque box. And then I can change the font size. I just highlight it. Maybe I want to make that blue. The other cool thing you can do is if you like one of the colors in this image, if you go to this eyedropper tool over here, click on it, and then click on something in your image, it will make the text that color. So that's a lot of fun. So let's say I want top to be pink. This gray is nice, so we're going to do that. There you go. And I'm actually going to make this sort of look like it's in the center of the image. You can also do this with your arrow keys, which is what I'm doing right now, to make it exactly where you want it. Now, if I'm looking at this and this rectangle, it makes it a little hard to read over here. So I can always go in, I unlocked this layer, I can change the opacity. So maybe I'll bump it up a little bit so it's easier to read. So that is that. And now what I can do, if I like what I have, I can go in, File, Save As. Now, this one doesn't really have like the TIFF version, so what I'm going to do is just save it as the Adobe Illustrator file. I'm going to name this stock graphic, and I'll save that to my desktop. And this can take a little bit of time to do because it is a little bit larger of a file. And basically the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator, Photoshop uses raster images. Illustrator uses vectors. So if I make something in Illustrator and I want it to be larger or smaller, it's going to look good at every size. Now, this image is a JPEG, so it may not look good at every size, but this box, this text, if I were to make some other shapes here, that would always look good, which is the advantage of that. And then to save this one, I'll just File, save for web here. Change this to JPEG. Tells me this preset's over here. It looks good. I'll save it. Just like that. And then it's saved over here somewhere. But I saved it to the desktop, but apparently it went somewhere else. Alright. But that's okay. Let me save it again. Save for web. JPEG. Save. No, it didn't. Okay. So I'll save it to desktop just so I have it. And then what I like to do is if I have another blog post, what I will do is I'll come in and I'll just replace this background image. So either I could put a new photograph in here or I could just move it around. And I will leave this rectangle the same and I'll just change the font. So if I were to do a Photoshop plus Illustrator workshop, and then I could always add that other text too, but I'll just leave this. And here's just a couple other things you guys can do to change things. I can change the angle of the text box. So that's so much fun, right? Of course, if you do that, you then have to figure out where it's supposed to go back to. Or you can always hit undo. This time I'm just going to hit enter for these so it lines up. And maybe I'll, oops, see, that's why I lock this layer, because then I can accidentally drag that, and I don't want to do that. And I might center this a little bit more. And then I can save this, and I have another graphic. And then if I wanted a third graphic, I could go back in, unlock this layer, move it over to the other one. And I've got 3 different backgrounds for my graphics out of one image that I just took, laid out all this stuff, took a picture on my camera, uploaded it, and edited it in Photoshop, and then put it in Illustrator. All right, so let's see what happens if we don't necessarily want a square image. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to pull up that other image that we edited yesterday. JPEG, again, really big. We can change this artboard size, hit enter. Let's make this one just a little bit bigger. So this is the size that I will use, the 1000 pixels I will use if I want to have like a full width image on my site for some explanation. So you guys will see some of those in these lessons. And if you hold down the shift key to resize, it keeps it the same dimensions. You don't have to worry about it getting all wonky. So if I just pull out without the shift key, it stretches out. We don't want that. I'm going to undo that. All right, so then I can do that. I will lock that layer and I will add a new layer and we'll do a new shape. So I can go in here, do an ellipse tool. This will make circles, don't worry. If you hold down shift, it makes a circle, guys. That's thrilling. Remember that, because you will otherwise spend a ton of time trying to figure it out, like I do on multiple occasions. Let me pick this green color this time. We're going to turn down the opacity a bit. And maybe I want this bigger than this. Maybe I want it to sort of take up the whole image almost. You can do that. It's pretty neat. Okay. So then what I can do that's kind of cool is come in here and just pick any different color that I wanted. And if I wanted to make this look kind of fancy, what I'll actually have to do is I'll have to turn on this outline. So I will make the stroke the same color. It'll actually have to be turned on. And I want this to be a color too. Let's actually just make these both this color so they're the same. Whoa! Alright, let's not do that. And I can switch them too, by the way. Let's turn this up a lot. If you go to this little arrow right here, it'll switch it from the inside to the outside. And I can make that bigger. And maybe what you want to do is select this. What if I could make the inside white and I could make the outside green. If I highlight it and I come over here to brushes, right now it's on basic, but I can pull up a bunch of different things in this library, do the charcoal, bring up this window, and I can pick one of these. So if I did that, let's see if I can find one that'll be a good example for you guys. It will just add that texture to it. So that's pretty solid. You can see that. Or I can go and pick something else. So I want to do a paintbrush, and they've got so many different options. You do have to have it highlighted for it to change. So don't freak out if it's not working right away. But this is really neat, and this is actually how I make some of my logos a little bit fancier. I just make a circle, and then I pick a different type of brush, and I play around with them to pick something to make it a little bit, different. Something that's not just a circle. So if we go in, we'll just pick something pretty simple, but a little bit different. And then, of course, we could go in and add our text again. Lock that layer so I don't mess it up. And if you want to increase the size at the beginning, that's totally cool, so you can actually see what you're typing. And I'm going to center this. I'll make these Arial again since that's my font. And you'll just want to pick whatever fonts you guys have laid out. And if you have not already learned this, you want to make sure that you do. Make sure that you only have 2 fonts on your website and just a couple of colors. You can't have everything. Sorry guys, it just doesn't look good. Promise. Promise your website will look more professional if you don't have absolutely everything on it. All right. Now one trick, if you want to center this is neat, okay? If I want to center these things, I unlock this layer, I click on that, I hold shift, click on that, it'll select both. Brings up these align buttons. So I can horizontal align center, it'll bring them together, or left, or that's right, or top. So I want to do it center, and it's going to make it centered on each other. If I want to evenly distribute them, I can do that. That works really well for if you have lines. So put this back in the center, put this in the center. And the other thing you can do is resize this text box so that it's about exactly the size you need for your text to show. That'll help you center your images too. Maybe I will make this that same green that we love. Now, if you notice, when I did that, I'm going to show you. So because what I highlighted was the stroke, it's going to change the stroke to green and the inside to white, because that's what this circle is. But I can just go in here and change that, and I can change the stroke to nothing, and it's right back at a font color. And of course, if I want to decrease this opacity again, I can do that. It looks pretty good. And basically you save this as an Illustrator file, and this can be your template. So you just go in, you change the background, you change the text, and you have really consistent images throughout your website. So that is that. So let's stop screen sharing. If I can figure that out. Okay. Nope. There we go. All right, so that is that. That is how you make really awesome graphics really quickly. Once you've got a template set up, it's really easy to go in, put in a new image, change the text, save it, upload it. You've got a great looking image on your website, and everything is going to be really consistent, which is super important. You want your brand images, your brand graphics, your colors, your fonts to all be consistent, because that's what's going to make you look professional. If you have, you know, random colors and 5 or 6 different fonts and your images all look different, you're going to look like an amateur did it. Sorry if you guys look like that right now. This makes it a really simple way to go in and do this all yourself. You don't have to hire a designer. You don't have to hire somebody who's going to make all these graphics or take these photographs for you. So you can do this all yourself, which is really awesome, saves you a lot of time in the long run, because you're not trying to work with somebody, and once you get it set up, you have templates that you can use, and it saves you a ton of money, because as we went over, you can use your iPhone to take these photos, you can get a free subscription to Creative Cloud, or you can use online programs to make these graphics, and you can basically do this for free, and then you're going to look really professional. People are going to be much more likely to visit and stay on your site and then buy whatever it is that you have to sell, whether that's affiliates, links, whether that's products or services or whatever it is. You are going to look more professional, and so people are going to treat you more professionally. So I am super excited about this, you guys. We have one more lesson that you're going to get access to tomorrow, and it's just going to be talking about sort of using your images online. And also included in the lesson today, you're going to get like a cheat sheet on social media images sizes. So you can just go in, you change your canvas size in Illustrator to that size, and then you make everything fit for that. And that way when you upload things, you don't have to worry about part of your picture not showing up, or it's not big enough, or it's blurry. If you know the size that you're working with, you can make everything look better. You can still use the same logo that you have. You can use your same headshot. You can use the same colors and fonts, and that's going to give it a consistent look, but it's going to be professional because it's laid out exactly the way you want it to be. All right, guys. Remember, if you like this course and you like this lesson, please share it with your friends. Help them to also make some great stock images and graphics for their blogs.